You brought up a couple of names there from Memphis. Brian Christopher. Memories, thoughts.
Brian in Memphis was a total. Brian as Too Cool, totally different. Um, Brian always had an attitude because Jerry's my dad, and I can do whatever I want in Memphis. This is my home. You, I'll be here in 3 months. You won't be. So I can do whatever I want to you, say whatever I want to you, and he did it, and he got away with it because that was his home. But when he got to WWF, it was a totally different story. I can remember Bradshaw got him in the locker room, Nassau Coliseum, duct taped him up, butt naked, pants down, and was going to just act like he was going to fuck him in the ass. And Brian was crying. It was probably the funniest, most humbling thing I've ever seen from him. He was legit scared. But Brian in Memphis was an asshole. You got him out of Memphis when he was in WWF. He was great. He was fun to be around and hang out with. But once he got back to Memphis, he was a dick.
How about PG13?
Didn't really work them that much. Only did a couple times when they did an angle after we had left and we were actually in Arkansas with Bert. We went back with Bill Dundee and did some angles with them. But we probably only worked them once or twice and never really had a big encounter with them. So I don't really have anything really good or bad to say.
No Jamie Dundee stories?
No, I don't have any of his.
Bill Dundee stories?
Not really, because when I hung out with him, he was with what was her name? Samantha Payne, Bull Payne's wife.
Okay.
And we were living with them, and again, there's nothing really. He was nice to us. He wasn't an asshole. I only encountered a few assholes.
Yeah.
But he was always good to us. He always tried helping us out when he was working with Bert. He helped us out there, with some strategy and kind of helping out. And then when he was doing some booking in Memphis, he tried bringing us back in, but Randy Hales just had a bug up his ass about us. Jerry Lawler was pissed at us about the first time we were there because they did this match where the Eliminators were there, Perry and John, and they did a match where they said we're watching the show, and they said, okay, Monday night, tag team titles, Spiders lose, they take their masks off. So we're like, cool. We're getting the straps. This is awesome. First time, first belt we ever got like that, major belt. We get there and we're like, okay, you guys are losing. You have to take your masks off. We're like, what? Yeah. The Spiders, the mask. That's the whole gimmick. How can we take our masks off? And so, we want you to take it off. We want you to be Chaz and Glenn, the Spiders, without your masks on. We're like, are you serious? The whole thing is the masks. We're like, we don't like the masks. So we said, fine, we'll take them off. So we got on the phone with Larry Sharp and we said, Larry, this is what they want us to do. We're not sure what to do. Blah 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 blah. Larry goes, figure something out. He goes, paint your faces underneath. If you really don't want anyone to see your face, if you don't want to do it, he goes, do that. So that's what we did. We painted our faces totally black under the masks. So when the masks came off, no one still saw who we were. We were total blackface. And that Friday night, we were in like Jonesboro, West Memphis, doing a show, and Jerry was there, and we're painting our faces up, and he goes, "What are you guys doing?" So we're painting our faces, and he goes, "Why are you doing that?" We said, "Well, you told us not to wear the masks. We put the face paint on it. We came back. Nobody said anything. So you don't want the mask. We're painting our faces." He goes, "Well, no one can see your face." We're like, yeah. He goes, "You might as well just wear the fucking masks then." We went, okay. So we wiped all the black shit off. We put the mask on. That next Monday night, Spiders are in a leave town match. They lose, they leave town. We're like, oh, guess we're leaving. And we lost and we left. He was pissed about it. So when we left, and then we had different gimmick ideas of trying to go back, because at the time that was the only territory running besides Smokey, and we couldn't get in Smokey yet. We kept trying to go back with different stuff, and they just never, ever opened the door for us again.
Wow. How about matches with the Eliminators? You remember working those guys?
Stiff.
Yeah.
Stiff as hell. Perry was real stiff. John was kind of easy, but Perry was just stiff. I remember when we left, they actually stiffed us some money because we had an apartment in Memphis. It was like 10 minutes from the Coliseum. It was $250 a month rent. That's all fully furnished, utilities, every washer, dryer, everything's covered, bars on the windows, the whole 9 yards. And they were supposed to give us like our security deposit back and take it over, and they never did. But whatever. But yeah, working them, they were fun to work. They were stiff. That's the first time I ever got knocked out, was one of Perry's clotheslines.
Really?
Yeah, he caught me right in the chin, and as I went back, I hit my head too. So that was the first time I was ever knocked out.
Wow.
They were fun.
So back to Smokey. What was the party scene like in Smoky Mountain?
Party scene?
Yeah, like after the shows.
A lot of it was driving, so there wasn't too much partying. And then when Glenn and I stayed with his dad, so there wasn't a whole lot of partying until the only partying that really happened was actually we drove with Buddy Landell a lot, and then a couple times White Boy, Dirty White Boy would drive with us. I can remember Tony always had to get the case of beer for the way back, and Tony always taught us to throw the beer cans out the window because we'd start saving them. He's like, no, you got to throw them out the window. You got to get rid of the evidence. You get pulled over, there's no evidence that you're drunk. We're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then, so it was a lot of driving back, and then we always went back to the house. So we never really hung out. We went to Hooters a lot. That's where there was one of the sponsors. So we used to go to Hooters all the time. Yeah, we used to go to Hooters all the time.
Any good Buddy Landell stories?
Buddy. Yeah, I don't know if there's any Buddy stories I want to tell.
Oh, okay. Hey, fair enough.
Buddy, I will say this. Buddy was great with us. Buddy kind of took us under his wing when he first got there and let us drive around with him. Actually, there's one time where we weren't even booked on a show, and it was in North Carolina. And Buddy was like, hey, why don't you just come, bring your gear. You never know if someone doesn't show up, and you can work. And I'm like, all right, I got nothing else to do anyway. So I drove out there with him. It was raining. I didn't work, but I went out there and I hung out with everyone. I drove back, and Buddy was like, here for driving. He hands me like $50, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Buddy was great. He was good to us. He took us in. There was nights where we'd sleep on his floor. Donna, his wife, was great. His girls were great. So Buddy was a real good guy.
Wow. Are you surprised that Smokey didn't work in the long run? That it wound up closing down?
Yes and no. Cornette's awesome. Cornette is brilliant. I think the biggest mistake that happened with Smokey was running great. It was way up here. And then Cornette went to WCW, and it kind of dropped back down. He left WCW, came back. Smokey came way back up because he got focused on it. And then he left. That's when he left and went to WWF, and that's kind of when things started, falling apart. And again, I was still learning. I didn't really. It's so funny. If I think about if I am who I am now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I think my career would be totally different than the way it went. Hindsight's 20/20. But I didn't really follow the aspects of how, running a company is and stuff like that. But when he would leave, the company kind of ran, not half-assed, but haphazardly. The guys were just kind of doing what they were doing, and he wasn't totally focused on it. Cornette's one of those guys, when he's focused on something, it's going to be awesome. But when he's all over the place, he just couldn't do it.
So why do you say that about your career? What do you think would have been different?
I think the biggest thing would have been when Glenn got hurt, and they called me up and they said, oh, we're doing this whole beaver cleavage thing. And I was like, great, I don't care, I'm working. I'll do whatever you want me to do. They squashed the beaver cleavage thing. They still had me with the girl. And they said, okay, we just want you to go out there and be Chaz. And I went, well, I said, who's Chaz? I'd never wrestled as Chaz. I wrestled as a Spider. I wrestled as a Headbanger. I was beaver cleavage. I think the first 3 matches I ever did, I was Chaz. And then squash matches on TV, I was Chaz. But I was getting squashed. It didn't matter who I was.
Yeah.
And I went, who's Chaz? They're like, oh, you're a fun guy from New Jersey. This is your girlfriend. And I went out there and I just kind of went through the motion.
Yeah.
And then they said, okay, we're bringing Glenn back. So this is what we want you to do because we're going back to being a headbanger. So I didn't really focus on it. I think going back, I think I would have taken Chaz and created something with him and said, okay, here's my opportunity. I think I was too dependent on Glenn, and that was my downfall in the end. After his knee surgery, with him being fat and not wanting to get back into shape and being lazy, I think when I had that opportunity, if I would have seen what I was given, I would have tackled it a lot more and done something with it. I would have put more focus on the girl, got her more involved. I would have tried to get her over more, but I knew kind of where it was going back to headbangers and tagging. So I didn't put a lot of energy and a lot of thought into it. And
yeah.
I think that was a big downfall. I think I should have taken that and seized it and capitalized on it. And I was young and stupid, and I didn't do it.
So in Smokey, I'm sure you saw a lot of guys come through and wrestled with a lot of different guys there. Is there anyone that you saw there that you thought, more like a younger guy, that you thought, wow, this guy's definitely going to make it, and it never panned out for him for whatever reason?
Not really, because we were actually there the last 3 months they were open. The last 6
okay.
months. We were there the last 6 months. We were there when they closed. We were there the last 6 months. So we were there with, we did the big show in Knoxville when they brought all the guys in. We were supposed to work the Steiners, and the Steiners ended up not showing, which was good for us because we ended up in front of the Knoxville Coliseum or whatever it was. You know, we ended up going over against other guys instead of doing a job to the Steiners, which still would have been great to work them.
Yeah.
But that's when Unabomber was there, Kane was there, Al Snow was there. So it was a great group. So I never really saw guys coming in and out because I was there the last 6 months. We were probably the last guys to come in that stayed when it shut down.
So you were there when it shut down?
Yes.
How did you guys find out and all that stuff?
I think we were at a show. I remember we always blamed it on Tommy Rich because Tommy Rich, it was a Sunday. I don't think it was Cooksville. I don't remember exactly where it was. Maybe it was Cooksville. But I remember we're sitting there and they come in, they're like, this is our last show, we got to shut down, blah, blah. And everyone in the locker room blamed Tommy Rich because Tommy Rich won the strap the night before. Tommy Rich became heavyweight champ the Saturday night before. So we were like, oh, put the strap on Tommy, the company shuts down. So I remember at that point we were like, great, what are we going to do? It took us this long to get here. We were actually getting paid every week and stuff like that. And it was fun. It was 3 days a week, and we were able, it was close enough. It was a 9-hour drive home where we could go home, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, drive back down Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we had a free place to live. Like, things were actually starting to go for us.
Yeah. Is it true that, I think I remember reading that Tracy Smothers or some of the other guys tried taking up a collection to help Cornette out?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know much about it, but it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
It sounds familiar.
Were you guys surprised when you heard the news, or was it something you saw coming, or something you maybe heard about?
I think we were surprised because we were still young and green, and we had come from a place where we didn't get paid.
Yeah.
So a lot of the guys were complaining they weren't getting paid. And I remember walking up to Sandy and saying, hey, can we get a draw tonight? And he'd go, oh, I'll see what I can do. I can't make any promises. But Sandy always gave us our draw. We always got paid. So a lot of guys were complaining, more I guess the top guys were complaining about not getting paid and stuff like that. But again, I had just come from Arkansas with Burt Prentice where I didn't get fucking paid. So it didn't really matter.
$1.50.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.